committee until 11:30. All right, good morning, everyone. I would like to reconvene this recessed meeting of the Government Administration and Elections Committee. And the first item on our agenda is remarks by the chairs. Are there any remarks from my co-chair? Any remarks from the ranking members? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda, bills and resolution for final action. And the first item I will call is Senate Bill 862. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill. Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal and seconded by Representative Morin Bello. Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 862? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Yeah, so I remember the testimony that we heard on the bill that is before us, and I am absolutely sympathetic to the concern, which is that very often questions that are handled on a local level, certainly for referendums, often can be complex. Sometimes they contain many provisions. They're not easy to understand, and that is because they're not easy to create a question that is suitable. And I know that is a legitimate problem, and we do have a definite and compelling interest in trying to solve it. I'm not going to support this bill that's before me today, although I suspect it's going to make it out of committee. And I'm hoping that we can continue the conversation, because my issue is not about solving the problem. I want to solve the problem. I just don't see that transferring the responsibility of making a final determination on the question is the purview of the Secretary of State. I believe we live in a individual on up system of government, not a top down system of government. And I much prefer to leave decisions affecting town government and town policy to that town itself. They should ultimately come up with the resolution question themselves. I know that they don't always succeed to do it in the best way. I don't know that the Secretary of State's office is going to have any better luck. Certainly they will be less directly engaged in the subject matter, for one. So I think they will be at a disadvantage. I don't know that they have the resources and so on. So I am sympathetic to the problem and would like to help find a solution. I just don't see that this is it. So I'll be opposing this bill today, Madam Chairman. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Are there further comments or questions on Senate Bill 862? Representative Mastro Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to kind of echo Senator Sampson's comments on this bill. You know, having served on our local town council, the most frustrating thing to me was when we had a referendum, and the question on the ballot was very confusing, and they lumped everything together, and I found that very frustrating. So there's a good part of this bill that I really like. But I do have to agree with Senator Sampson. I don't like the power of this really being transferred over to the Secretary of State, and the local town government, the town council, and what's governed by their charter really should be making these decisions. So hopefully, like he said, maybe these conversations can continue and something may change before it gets to the floor. But I'm going to flag this with a no today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Are there other comments or questions on Senate Bill 862? Yes, Representative Hoxa.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'll be very brief as well. I just want to also echo the comments made by Senator Sampson and Representative Gil Mastro Francesco. I don't think anybody here is opposed to, the intent of this bill. It's just a matter of, at least in my view, that, we're seeing more and more now, legislation being proposed that, funnels up the, power and authorities from, from the municipal level of government to, state government. And that, as just a general trend, concerns me, which is, the basis for why I'll be a no on this vote. So I just, wanted to put that on the record, and back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Are there further comments or questions on Senate Bill 862? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on Senate Bill 862?
Senate Bill 862 JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slack,
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Moore Bello,
Bello votes yes.
Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Master Francesco,
No.
Burger Gervalo, Bronco,
Bronco votes no.
Carpino, Haddad,
Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa,
Hoxa votes no.
Kana,
Kana votes yes.
Labriola, Marks, McCarthy Vehi, McCrory, Parker, Rosario,
Rosario votes yes.
Santiago,
Santiago votes yes.
Burger Gervalo,
Burger Gervalo votes yes.
all set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and we will hold votes open until 3 p.m. today or whenever the meeting, if that time may be adjusted, if the meeting should go longer. Next on our agenda is Senate Bill 1151. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill. Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded by Representative Moore Bello. This bill comes before us from the Office of State Ethics. It is a proposal that has been in front of us before, and it deals with some definitions with regard to quasi-public agencies and public officials, and some changes to the lobbyist registration process. Are there any questions or comments on Senate Bill 1151? Seeing no questions on Senate Bill 1151, Representative Master Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill, like you said, is really just a technical change to include the term officer elect. I don't have any objections to this bill. And at this time, I'd like to offer, if you would like to build a consent calendar, that would be fine. And I don't have, without any objection, I think we can put this item on a consent calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Master Francesco. Is there any objection to placing Senate Bill 1151 on a consent calendar? Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 1151 will be on our consent calendar. Thank you. Next is Senate Bill 1152, an act concerning contracting with quasi-public agencies under the State Code of Ethics. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill.
So moved.
Motion made by Representative Blumenthal, seconded by Representative Haddad. And this bill does what the title says. So are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would just offer this item up for the consent calendar also, if you're inclined.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Senator Sampson has made a motion to add Senate Bill 1152 to our consent calendar. Is there any objection to adding 1152 to our consent calendar? Seeing none, Senate Bill 1152 will be placed on our consent calendar. Next, item number 4, Senate Bill 1154. The chair would entertain a motion to JF Senate Bill 1154. A motion has been made by Representative Moore Bello, seconded by Representative Haddad. This bill comes before us today from the auditors of public accounts. It is similar to a proposal that was in this bill last year with regard to disclosures for whistleblower complaints, background checks with the Department of Motor Vehicles, and the public hearing process for school boards and municipalities, and makes a few technical changes. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 1154? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I appreciate your description of the bill, and certainly when the auditors come before us, generally speaking, I support their recommendations. They are doing a great job in our state, and I'm always confident that when they put items before this committee, they are thought out and worth our consideration. And I'm going to support this bill out of committee today, although I do want to recognize that there is some concern about Section 1. I know that we've had some testimony and some conversations about the language in Section 1, which would effectively exempt from disclosure whistleblower complaints in their entirety. And I know this is a direct result of a situation where there was a small agency involved in a particular complaint, and the actual whistleblower's identity might have been easy to identify based on the size of the agency and the facts of the case. So I know that they are kind of stuck in a spot where they're trying to find a solution to that. And I'm just hopeful that we as a committee can continue a conversation and maybe find a more narrow way to resolve that issue rather than the complete exemption of whistleblower complaints from disclosure, in which case I feel much better supporting it as it goes forward down the road. But I will support it today. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Sampson. Are there any other questions or comments? Representative Master Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I certainly agree with Senator Sampson. There are some concerns here with the freedom of information. The auditors of public accounts, very important department. We certainly want to support them with their changes. But there were two concerns that I have, and it certainly was the issue with the freedom of information. And still the question, I remember this last year with the background checks of the bus drivers. And I want to ensure that they're not, I'm all in favor of background checks, and certainly for bus drivers, it's really important because they're with children. But I want to make sure that their license are not suspended or anything prior to the results coming back from there. So I don't know if that's something that we can possibly work on or keep the conversation going. Those are my two concerns on this. I'm going to flag this with a no today, just so I can keep the conversation going, and hopefully that we can work on it. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Are there additional comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on Senate Bill 1154?
Senate Bill 1154 JF to the floor. Flexer,
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal, Slack,
Senator Slack votes yes.
Morinbello,
Morinbello votes yes.
Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Master Francesco,
Master Francesco is a no.
Burger Gervalo,
Burger Gervalo is yes.
Bronco,
Bronco, no.
Carpino, Haddad,
Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa,
Hoxa votes yes.
Kana,
Kana votes yes.
Labriola, Marks, McCarthy Vehi, McCrory, Parker, Rosario,
Rosario votes yes.
Santiago.
Santiago votes yes.
All set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on our agenda is Senate Bill 1158, an act designating various days, weeks, and months. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill. Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal, seconded by Representative Morinbello. This bill before us is our annual days, weeks, and months bill. There were a variety of people who came to testify in support of this bill at our public hearing, and I do want to just give a special bit of recognition to the Bosnian American community that came out in support of Bosnian Genocide Remembrance Day, which will be designated as on July 11th to remember the more than 8,000 civilians that were killed in Srebrenica during the Bosnian War. The testimony that those individuals gave at our public hearing was, in my mind, some of the most powerful and difficult testimony that we've heard in this committee, at least in my tenure here. And so I just want to express special gratitude for that to them for their advocacy and their patience that day. That was it was a varied public hearing, but their commitment to moving this day of recognition forward is incredibly admirable and will help ensure that the history of that day is remembered. And so with that, are there any additional comments on Senate Bill 1158? Senator Representative Hoxa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to take this opportunity to, actually echo your comments. I wasn't here for the public hearing when members of, the Bosnian American community were present and speaking to the bill. But, I wasn't able to make it because of a prior obligation, but I was flooded with emails by members of the community, and being originally from a part of the world very close by to Bosnia, I can certainly sympathize with what they were, what their experience was, and I think it's important that when we have an opportunity like this to find some common ground, and when we're presented with an ability to endorse something like this across party lines, that that we make it very clear that we're in support of something like that. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that, because I wasn't here the day of the testimony, the public hearing. So that's all I have on that. I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And I'd like to align my comments with yours and Representative Hoxa as well. And I figured I would take a moment just for people that are watching and listening to kind of go through some of the other items that are on this bill. We are also recognizing Bone Health and Osteoporosis Month, Tardive Dyskinesia Awareness Week. I'm glad I got that out without messing it up. Ann Petrie Day, a Connecticut author who made tremendous contributions to literature as the first African-American female author to sell more than 1 million copies of a novel. Trinity College Day. Of course, we've already discussed Bosnian Genocide Remembrance Day. And the next two items that are on here, I was proud to co-introduce with Senator Looney, believe it or not, Free Enterprise Day and Constitution Day. There is also raising awareness for PANS and PANDAS, which is something that I know that Senator Kissel was very much involved with. Survivors of Homicide Victims Awareness Month, Peace Corps Month, and I think finally it is Maternal Mental Health Month and Maternal Mental Health Day are also recognized in this bill. And each year, we always have a selection of items, but I thought today these were definitely worth listing for the folks listening. And I'm very much in support of this bill and would also add this item to the consent calendar. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Is there objection to placing Senate Bill 1158 on our consent calendar if there are no further comments or questions? Seeing no further comments or questions and no objection, Senate Bill 1158 will be placed on our consent calendar. Next is item number 6, Senate Bill 1185, an act concerning the Legislative Commissioner's recommendations for minor and technical revisions to the government administration and election statutes. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill. Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded by Representative Haddad. This bill is the wonderful attorneys in the Legislative Commissioner's office pride and joy piece of legislation, the technical revisions to our statutes that this committee governs, and this is their top priority, and the least we can do for our wonderful colleagues in the Legislative Commissioner's office is to pass their bill. I'm being facetious, for the record. Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 1185? Representative Master Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I agree with you. These are just technical revisions. Certainly, I support them, and I would offer this to the consent calendar if there's no objections.
Thank you, Representative. Is there any objection to placing Senate Bill 1185 on our consent calendar? Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 1185 will be placed on our consent calendar. Item number 7, Senate Bill 1187. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded by Representative Moran Bello. Similarly, Senate Bill 1187 makes technical changes to the government administration statutes. Is there any discussion? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just looking at this bill, this doesn't really, as you mentioned, the changes are technical in nature, but this bill, since it's so short and the changes seem so unnecessary, I'm guessing this looks to me like a placeholder or dummy bill. And I'll just say for the record that I don't like to support these. Ironically, I was actually at a town hall meeting within the last several days where I brought up a lot of the policy and procedure that we go through in the legislature, talking about, how much notice there are before public hearings, and when the bill language has to appear for meetings where we're going to debate and vote on policy and so forth. And they were surprised at a lot of stuff. But one of the things that those folks I think found most frustrating, and so do I, as being a member of the legislature, I was very surprised to find out that we don't actually make a significant effort to finalize our bill language in the committee before it goes to the House and Senate. And you'll often hear people mention works in progress, that kind of thing. And for me, that's a frustration. I think that the committee is where we're supposed to get that work done. I think that's where we have the ability to have these conversations and offer amendments and be able to really fine tune our legislation. It's a shame that it has devolved into, moving bills out of committee simply because there is a title that will be suitable for what the ultimate final language is. And that's bad enough. But to actually purposefully draft a bill just so there is a suitable title for something you may have an idea to put in later, to me, I think is a perversion of the process. I don't choose that word other than it's for its accuracy, not for effect. Anyway, I won't support a dummy bill based on those grounds, Madam Chairman. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any further comments on Senate Bill 1187? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on Senate Bill 1187?
Senate Bill 1187, JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slapp.
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Moran Bello.
Representative Moran Bello votes yes.
Sampson.
Sampson is no.
Master Francesco.
Master Francesco votes no.
Burger Gervalo.
Burger Gervalo votes yes.
Bronco.
Bronco, yes.
Carpino. Haddad.
Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa.
Hoxa votes no.
Kana.
Kana votes yes.
Labriola. Marks. McCarthy Vehi. McCrory. Parker. Rosario. Representative Rosario. Santiago.
Santiago votes yes.
All set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item I will call on our agenda is item number 8, Senate Bill 1189, an act concerning the deadline for filing nominating petitions with the Secretary of the State. The chair would entertain a motion to JF Senate Bill 1189.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Representative Haddad. This bill before us comes to us from the town clerks. And the town clerks have asked to move the deadline for nominating petitions for candidates to with the Secretary of the State's office to 7 days before the deadline for filing with the town clerk. It's my understanding that the current system the timeline is challenging, and so that's why the town clerks have made this request for the change in the statutes. Are there any questions or comments on Senate Bill 1189? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a perfectly reasonable bill, and I would offer this item for the consent calendar as well.
Into placing Senate Bill 1189 on our consent calendar. Seeing none, Senate Bill 1189 will be added to our consent calendar. The next item on our agenda that I will call is item number 10, House Bill 6822, an act designating the state dog, state pet, and state candy. The chair would entertain a motion to JF House Bill 6822.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded by Representative Haddad. This bill makes 3 designations. It designates the Siberian Husky as the state dog. Avoiding a conflict from last year, it designates the shelter pet as the state pet and designates the lollipop as the state candy. As members of the committee will remember, both from this year and previous years, there are some very wonderful young people from the town of Fairfield who have advocated for the lollipop for several years, and I am hopeful that this will finally be the year they see success. And so with that, is there any further discussion on House Bill 6822? Representative Master Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I first want to say that I truly appreciate the students coming here from Fairfield to testify. I think it's a great experience for them. But I also recognize, sometimes through this committee, we try to put positive things through, and I think that's a nice gesture. But I also think of all the other big issues that we got going on in this state. A husky to be the state dog and lollipops to be the state candy are all certainly noble recommendations. But again, I'm as I mentioned with the pizza bill, we do have a lot of things, a lot of big issues to face in the state that we could be focusing on. So I am gonna, not that I don't support dogs or not that I don't support lollipops. I'm gonna vote no on this today. I just feel that we have a lot of pressing issues. And these things here, it's again, like I said, with the pizza bill, is you have a small group of people deciding, what the state dog could be or what the state candy could be. I mean, we have a Pez candy out there. Why isn't Pez candy the state candy? Right. It is. You're right. You're right.
I can answer that if you like,
Yes,
Representative.
if you can. Thank you.
Pez cannot be the state candy because it is not a type of candy, but it is an actual brand. And so the state cannot be engaged in favoring one brand or another. For example, we could also not have the Hershey Kiss be the state candy for the same reason.
Thank you for that clarification. I remember that now from last time. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to vote no on this today. And please, it's not that I don't support any of this. I just feel that we have a lot of pressing issues that I think we should be focusing on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any other comments on House Bill 6822? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on House Bill 6822?
House Bill 6822 JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slap.
Senator Slap votes yes.
Morinbello.
Morinbello votes yes.
Sampson.
Sampson is yes.
Master Francesco.
Master Francesco is a no.
Burger Gervalo.
Burger Gervalo is a yes.
Bronco.
Bronco, yes.
Carpino. Haddad.
Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa.
Hoxa votes yes.
Kana.
Kana votes yes.
Labriola. Marks. McCarthy Vehi. McCrory. Parker. Rosario. Representative Rosario. Santiago.
Santiago votes yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And just as a reminder, we anticipate the votes being held open until 3 p.m. today. Next on our agenda, I will call item number 11, House Bill 6825, an act concerning the appearance of unfilled vacancies in candidacies on the ballot. I would entertain a motion to JF this bill. Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal and seconded by Representative Moran Bello. This bill before us today comes from the Secretary of the State's office, and it is what I view as a small correction to our existing law with regard to obscuring the name of a candidate. I believe the history is that stickers were affixed under the old voting machines, and with our current voting machines and hopefully our future voting machines, stickers don't really work well on the paper ballots. And so this is allowing a different way to obscure the name on a ballot if there is a vacancy in a candidacy. Are there any additional comments or questions on House Bill 6825? Representative Mastro Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a good bill. It'll correct the problem that we're having with stickers. And I would like to offer this on the consent calendar if there's no objections.
Representative Mastro Francesco has made a motion to add House Bill 6825 to our consent calendar. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, House Bill 6825 will be placed on our consent calendar. Next is item number 12, House Bill 6828, an act concerning conflicts of interest due to an employer other than the state under the State Code of Ethics. The chair would entertain a motion to JF House Bill 6828 to the floor. Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded by Representative Moran Bello. Thank you. This bill comes to us also from the Office of State Ethics. It expands the definition of substantial conflicts of interest under the state's Code of Ethics. It places new requirements with regard to conflicts of interest for elected state officials and their spouses with regard to outside employment. And it expands the definition of what is a potential conflict of interest under the state Code of Ethics for actions taken by the public official or state employee that might impact their own individual financial interests. I believe this proposal has been before the committee before, and I would be happy to hear any additional comments or questions from members of the committee on House Bill 6828. Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for your description of the bill. I've got nothing to add, but I would offer this item for the consent calendar.
Senator Sampson has made a motion to add House Bill 6828 to our consent calendar. Is there any objection to placing House Bill 6828 to our consent calendar? Seeing none, House Bill 6828 will be placed on our consent calendar. Moving on, item number 13, House Bill 6864, an act concerning municipal campaign finance filings. The chair would entertain a motion to JF House Bill 6864. Motion has been made to JF House Bill 6864 by Representative Blumenthal and seconded by Representative Moran Bello. This bill before us today comes to us from the State Elections Enforcement Commission, and it would represent a change in that it requires that municipal campaign finance filings would be made with the State Elections Enforcement Commission rather than our existing system with the town clerks. It makes some conforming changes for that shift to SEEK rather than the town clerks to happen. And it requires that the registration statements that are filed through SEEK be filed via eCrest unless there is a waiver that is given by the State Elections Enforcement Commission. Is there any additional comment or question from members of the committee on House Bill 6864? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and I appreciate your description of the bill. And I certainly understand where this is coming from. I can respect that the town clerks have a lot of responsibilities, and this is just another thing added on their plate that might make things difficult at certain times of the year when there are political campaigns in full flux, et cetera. I'm just not in favor of transferring that responsibility of recording these candidates for town office at the state level. As much as possible, I'd like to keep town government inside town government, and that includes elections. So I'll be opposing this item today, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other comments on House Bill 6864? Representative Hoxa.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be very brief. I just, want to second the comments made by Senator Sampson. Going back to my philosophy on a similar, bill that dealt with a similar transfer of power from the local level to the state level. Just as a matter of principle, it's not something that I would endorse, and I don't see really, an issue with, how municipal elections and municipal filings are handled with town clerks and, all over the state in the present moment. So it doesn't strike me as, an issue that even really exists. I mean, there certainly probably are, town clerks out there that would prefer to have this, responsibility transferred to the citizens, State Election Enforcement Commission. But as a general matter, it just seems like another, instance of, authority being funneled centrally. So for that reason, I will be a no on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any additional comments on House Bill 6864? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on House Bill 6864?
House Bill 6864 JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slap.
Senator Slap votes yes.
Moran Bello.
Moran Bello votes yes.
Sampson.
Sampson is no.
Master Francesco.
Master Francesco votes no.
Burger Gervalo.
Burger Gervalo votes yes.
Bronco.
Bronco votes no.
Carpino. Haddad.
Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa.
Hoxa votes no.
Kana.
Kana votes yes.
Labriola. Marks. McCarthy Vehi. McCrory. Parker. Rosario.
Rosario votes yes.
Santiago.
Santiago votes yes.
All set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda that I will call is House Bill number 6866, an act concerning the updating of state forms and applications to include a non-binary gender option. The chair would entertain a motion to JF this bill.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal and seconded by Representative Haddad. The bill before us requires that state agencies by January 1st, 2024, identify all forms and applications that they use with the public, that their request for information with regard to sex or gender, that they evaluate any that do not include a non-binary gender option. It will require that all agencies update the forms and applications by October 1st of 2024 to include a non-binary gender option. And it also requires that state agencies that may need to request approval from any applicable federal agency to update their process or forms that they request that approval if it is required under federal law. This is an issue that this committee has seen in varying forms for the last several years, and that is why this policy is before us. Are there additional comments or questions on House Bill 6866? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I understand the bill, and your description was very good. Section A, or Section 1 rather, A, looks like a just a definition of state agency, and Section 2 seems that it's instructions that each state agency shall do an assessment about what it would take to actually develop forms that include a non-binary gender option by date certain January 1st, 2024. And then section C says that they will update their forms based on that assessment as of October 1st. What I'm confused about is section D, where it says the provisions of this section shall not apply to any state agency that does not provide forms or applications to be completed by members of the public. And I can certainly understand if there's no forms, then you don't need to make a change. But I don't know if this implies that the forms that are completed by state employees will not have this change. Maybe you can clarify that for me.
Thank you, Senator. I believe that the main purpose of this proposal is to deal with forms that have a public interface. So where members of the public are being asked to share information with the state agency. I don't think it's been contemplated either in this proposal this year or in previous conversations we've had in this committee with regard to this proposal to include any internal forms and documents that state agencies may have, but I don't know that we would necessarily be averse to doing that in a version of this bill in the future.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. That makes sense. I thought it was interesting that we are certainly updating forms in this bill proposal for forms completed by the public, but it just seemed ironic that we would not do that for forms that are used as for state employees and so forth. I have some concerns with this bill, and as you mentioned, it's been before this committee a number of times in the past, and I think it doesn't make it over the finish line for a number of reasons. And obviously the biggest one is cost. And I think the Secretary of State had indicated just their one agency might generate a cost of $250,000 to update their forms. And I think that's the purpose of these this timeline, using January 1st to do an assessment and then October 1st to implement it. But the other issue I have really is that changing forms that are currently give options for male and female to now say male, female, and a non-binary gender option. Does that mean that the form will say, there'll be a checkbox for non-binary, or will it say something different, gender neutral? What would the form actually say, Madam Chairman?
Thank you, Senator Sampson. I believe the state agencies will first assess their existing forms to determine which forms would need to have this additional option added to it. And then those forms would be updated to include a non-binary option. So when they are requesting information with regard to sex or gender, there would have to be an additional option for people who identify as non-binary as opposed to male or female.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but you didn't really answer my question, which is what would the option be? I understand that there may be more than one way that folks who identify as non-binary may describe themselves. And I guess that's what I'm asking is, because I think in fairness to the members of this committee, before we make a commitment to support this legislation, I'd like to know exactly what the form's going to say. Is it going to say male, female, and other? Is it going to say male, female, and gender neutral? Will it say male, female, non-binary? Will it say something different than that? I think it's important for us to know.
To the senator, the form, in my interpretation, will say non-binary. That will be the additional option.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that answer. I don't know that that's completely clear from the language, since it simply says to include a non-binary gender option. And if they had wanted to say simply non-binary, they would have said so in the bill language. I have concerns about this from lots of different perspectives, and I'm trying to be cognizant of the fact that there are people all across the political spectrum who have different views on this subject, and to be respectful of them. There are certainly people who believe there are only two genders. I'm one of them. I don't think there are any other genders, although I do acknowledge the fact that there are some people that are born with certain characteristics that may make it difficult to define their actual anatomical biological gender. But for all intents and purposes, there are males and females and there are no other genders. But there are people in our society who do identify in different ways. The question becomes twofold now. It's, do we recognize that people want to identify as something other than male or female, number one? And then number two, if we're going to do that and we're going to take that leap, which I think is a very giant leap in one respect, but if we are going to take that leap, how should we do it? And I don't know that this would even be fair to them. I've run across people in my experience that identify lots of different ways, and simply to give them the choice of male, female, and non-binary doesn't seem like you're being as inclusive as maybe this bill's ultimate goal is. I think that that is maybe potentially less inclusive because now it has included only a segment of people that have an alternative view to male versus female. For me, the best solution really would be to just keep gender out of the hands of government officials when reviewing forms. I think that would have the benefit of preventing potential discriminatory action based on gender. And I have an amendment, Madam Chairman, and I'll call it Amendment A. And effectively what it would do is simply eliminate the question altogether, to say that our government forms in the future would no longer ask for gender at all. So I make a motion to approve my amendment. I have copies I can distribute to the members of the committee if you want to take a second to do that. And I'd like a roll call vote.
Thank you, Representative. Yes, I do think the copies will be necessary so that we know which lines of the bill you're actually attempting to amend. Is there a second to Senator Sampson's amendment? Second has been made by Representative Mastro Francesco. We will pause for just a moment so that members of the committee can receive the copies of the amendment, and so that I can check with the committee staff to make sure that members who are participating remotely have received copies of the amendment. We're going to wait just for a moment to make sure all of the members have received the copy of the senator's amendment. If there are any members of the committee who are participating via Zoom, please check your email. You will see Senator Sampson's amendment in your inbox. And not hearing from anyone that they have not received it, I will move forward with the debate. Senator Sampson, did you have additional comment?
Not before the vote on the amendment, no, but
Okay.
I would like to retain the floor after.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Senator. Senator, I appreciate the conversation on this proposal. I would encourage my colleagues to reject this amendment. There are a variety of reasons why state agencies may need to collect gender identifying information, and it would greatly affect the operation of those agencies. And one area I would highlight is an area that this committee has done a lot of good work on across state government and in great consultation with the Office of Policy of Management, which is in the area of data collection. If we were to eliminate the collection of information with regard to sex and gender, it could really cause some difficulty and reduce the amount of good data we have on a variety of issues with regard to state agencies and how they function, and many public policy issues that need to be contemplated and that do need to recognize all of the different genders that a person may identify as. And so with that, I would encourage my colleagues to respectfully reject this amendment. Is there any other discussion on the Senator Sampson's amendment? Seeing Representative Haddad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I share your concern and would just like to sort of say, in the area of higher education, of course, there's Title IX, which governs, whether or not a university is complying with certain discrimination practices as required by the federal government. Compliance with Title IX requirements sort of, is a precursor to becoming eligible for all federal aid and grants. And I think that the legislation is written, since it would apply to constituent units of higher education, I think would potentially put all federal support for higher education at risk. So in addition to government, data mining, I think there's very real financial implications if this legislation, this amendment were to be adopted and were to move forward. And so I would request members of the committee to vote no.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any additional questions or comments on Senator Sampson's amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the amendment to House Bill 6866 that has been proposed by Senator Sampson?
Sampson Amendment A. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes no.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes no.
Slack.
Senator Slack votes no.
Morin-Bello.
Morin-Bello votes no.
Sampson.
Sampson is yes.
Master Francesco.
Master Francesco votes yes.
Burger Gervalo.
Burger Gervalo votes no.
Bronco.
Yes.
Carpino. Haddad.
Haddad votes no.
Hoxa.
Hoxa votes yes.
Kana.
Kana votes no.
Labriola. Marks. McCarthy-Vahey. McCrory. Parker. Rosario.
Rosario votes no.
Santiago.
Santiago votes no.
All set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you please, when you're ready, announce the tally on the amendment vote?
Five yea, 9 nay, 5 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The amendment fails. Senator Sampson?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Oh, shucks. I thought we were going to be so close and that we would pull that off. I got to tell you, I mean, it's the conversation in politics surrounding gender is such a toxic topic. It's almost dangerous to wade into the discussion. And I think that the best way to handle it is, as I've tried to do here today, which is to just be completely honest about it, which is that there are people that have different points of view. And in America, we do our best to try and recognize those different points of view and respect them. That's the best solution, instead of trying to force our way onto others. And I guess that I would say that might be my objection to the underlying bill, is that I have a feeling that in some respects, this pushes a worldview that many people, myself included, do not agree with. And I don't think that people would appreciate me pressing my worldview upon them. And the best solution for that ultimately is to find a reason or a solution that solves that problem by allowing people to be individuals, to choose their own path in life, and to be respected in the process, but not to force their worldview or their agenda upon others. I certainly respect the concerns about federal aid, but I stand by the principle that we should really be judging people in our society on merit and merit alone. And there is a tremendous tendency, particularly in blue states, to data mine, I guess is the proper word, and put people into categories by race, by gender, by ethnicity, and to develop policy based on those characteristics. Forgetting, of course, that every one individual is an individual person and that you cannot judge people based on their gender or their race and ethnicity. And I think it is dangerous and wrong to do so, and certainly contradictory of our value system as Americans. So I have a follow-up amendment, which I hope will further make another attempt to address this issue, which this one, rather than eliminating the question altogether, would offer a different third answer. Because as I mentioned, I don't believe even including non-binary as a third option would do justice to the people that have the worldview that differs from mine. I think that there are many people that say, no, I don't identify as male, female, or non-binary. I'm, whatever. And I know we've had another bill in this committee before that said we could put an X, but do people want to be identified as X? I don't think so. I think if you want to be identified a certain way, then you should be able to identify that way. That doesn't mean that anyone else should recognize it. If I came in here today and said that I'm a giraffe, I don't expect anyone to treat me like I'm a giraffe. And that's just a matter of fact. But I should be allowed to do whatever I choose. And I respect that notion and view of the world. So this amendment B, I will offer changes section C of the bill again, and this time it would change the language from male and female, and the third answer would be prefer not to answer, which I think is a perfectly acceptable response. And I move adoption and like a roll call vote, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Are there further questions or comments? Oh, thank you. Yeah. The motion has been seconded by Representative Mastro Francesco for Senate Amendment B. I would encourage my colleagues to oppose this amendment for reasons stated on the last amendment. Are there any additional comment or question? Representative Mastro Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you look at the way this bill is worded and putting in the word non-binary, kind of opens the door to many other terms because people identify in many different ways. What this amendment does, basically, it doesn't single out one particular gender non-binary. It's just basically saying that I choose not to answer. I certainly agree with my good colleague here that I personally believe that there's only two genders, male or female. But when you, again, if you look at that, there's so many different ways that you can identify and just looking them up. So what do? Do we start changing our forms to have a list of maybe 10 different ways people identify? So they identify that as non-binary, gender fluid, there's gender neutral, gender non-conforming, there's intergender, multigender, pangender, and transgender. So my point is, where does the list stop? This particular amendment really would put an end to all of it. And it's just saying, I don't choose to answer the question. And I think it's a really good amendment. I think it fixes the problem because clearly the way the bill is right now, I guess one who may identify, maybe they're not non-binary, maybe they're something else. They could really take offense to it. Well, why isn't my gender on there? And that could be very, very complicated, could be very confusing. And quite honestly, it probably could upset some people. This is why I believe that we just have male or female. There's two choices and that's it. So Madam Chair, I support this amendment wholeheartedly, and I encourage my colleagues to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Are there further questions or comments on Senate Amendment B or just Amendment B, Committee Amendment B? Seeing no additional comments or question, I would just reiterate that I encourage my colleagues to oppose this amendment. And I want to say for the record, I respect but very much disagree with the comments of Senator Sampson and Representative Mastro Francesco on this amendment. So with that, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sampson, Amendment B. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes no.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes no.
Slap,
Senator Slatt votes no.
Moran Bello,
Moran Bello votes no.
Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Mastro Francesco,
Mastro Francesco votes yes.
Burger Gervalo,
Burger Gervalo votes no.
Bronco,
Yes.
Carpino, Haddad,
Haddad votes no.
Hoxa,
Hoxa votes yes.
Kana,
Kana votes no.
Labriola, Marks,
Marks votes no.
McCarthy Vehy,
McCarthy Vehy votes no.
McCrory, Parker, Rosario,
Rosario votes no.
Santiago,
Santiago votes no.
all set, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And when you are ready, if you could announce the tally on the amendment vote on Amendment B.
5 yea, 11 nay, 3 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The amendment fails. Are there additional comments or questions on House Bill 6866? Seeing no additional comments or questions, Representative Burger Gervalo. I'm so sorry, Representative.
It's quite okay, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. You got closer than most do. Very briefly, I just want to say that we don't have to understand what it means for someone to be non-binary to respect them. And having spoken to so many young people in my own community and in communities outside of my own district who identify as non-binary, they are so grateful for the state's acknowledgement of this aspect of their identity. And because this doesn't require anyone who is not non-binary to claim to be so, I am very, very, very supportive of this change. So thank you very much. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Are there additional comments or questions on House Bill 6866? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a final comment, which is that, you know, I tried to offer a couple of solutions that I thought might be respective of all parties. And maybe people don't agree with my commentary or my views, but I do believe that the solutions I offered are valid and appropriate. The alternative, which is to move forward with the bill as is not inclusive. It is not inclusive in what way, in any way. It will not be inclusive of people that don't identify as male, female, and non-binary, and it will not be inclusive of people like me who feel there are only two genders. So we can either go through this world deciding that it's okay for the government to pass legislation that is less inclusive and forces people to adopt an agenda they don't agree with, or we can try and find solutions like I offered, which would respect anyone to be able to complete the form without feeling they are left out. So I'm a no on the bill, Madam Chairman, and I would encourage my colleagues some introspection about, it might be great when you're in the majority and you can force your will on people that disagree with you, but you may not always be in the majority.
Are there any additional comments or questions on House Bill 6866? Representative Mastro Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we talk about topics like this, I think they could be very sensitive to people. And I just want to make it very clear, when we do things like this, I always hear, and I have to be honest with you, it's very frustrating from my colleagues on the other side. They always kind of bring in these words of respect. That like, it's kind of insinuating that we don't respect people because we don't agree with the way of what the language, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I can speak for everybody here on my side of the aisle that of course we have respect for people, and we have respect. They can identify anything that they want. And Senator Sampson's remarks are very true. It's inclusive. We're trying to include everybody. So just because we may disagree and we may have a different belief, doesn't mean that we don't respect you and we don't respect people the way they identify. Of course we do. We just have a different belief. And I just want to make that very clear because it is somewhat frustrating that we get accused of not respecting people or being called other names that maybe we're prejudiced or whatever. And that is not true at all. I have the utmost respect for people. They can identify however they want. And just because you are who you are, doesn't mean that you're not a person. And you always should be respected. I just wanted to make that very clear, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative, and just feel it may help the conversation if I point this out. A few moments ago on one of the amendments, I said that I respected both of your comments, but I strongly disagreed with what you were saying. So with that, are there any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on House Bill 6866?
House Bill 6866 JF to the floor. Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slap.
Senator Slav votes yes.
Moran Bello.
Moran Bello votes yes.
Sampson.
Sampson is no.
Master Francesco.
Master Francesco votes no.
Burger Gervalo.
Burger Gervalo votes yes.
Bronco.
No.
Carpino.
Yes.
Haddad.
Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa.
Hoxa votes no.
Kana.
Kana votes yes.
Labriola. Marks.
Senator Marks votes yes.
McCarthy Vehy.
McCarthy Vehy votes yes.
McCrory. Parker. Rosario.
Rosario votes yes.
Santiago.
Santiago votes yes.
All set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on our agenda, I will call House Bill 6870, item number 15, an act concerning retrieval by town clerks of absentee ballots in drop boxes. Is there a motion to JF House Bill 6870?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Representative Blumenthal, seconded by Representative Moran Bello. The bill before us today is, I would describe as somewhat similar to the bill we had a few minutes ago with regard to candidate vacancies. This makes a small conforming change to the timeline for the collection of absentee ballots from drop boxes. There's a discrepancy in the existing law between the period of time that absentee ballots are available and the period of time which these absentee ballots can be collected from the drop boxes. Is there any additional comment or question on House Bill 6870? Yes, Senator Sampson. And before I recognize you, if you don't mind, this bill comes to us from the town clerks. Go ahead, Senator Sampson.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to support the bill today. I thought I would take an opportunity just to say that I'm supporting the bill and the change, and I certainly understand the town clerk's concerns and their desire to have help with the retrieval. But it doesn't change the fact that I don't think we should be using these drop boxes. And if we are going to use them, we ought to be using them in a way that helps protect the integrity of the vote by making sure they are properly monitored, that they are in places that are easily, tracked, maybe cameras, et cetera. I won't waste the committee's time today with amendments that I've offered in the past unsuccessfully, but I do think that we need to revisit the subject of drop boxes at some point. And but I will support this bill today, and I'd offer it for the consent calendar as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sampson has made a motion to add House Bill 6870 to our consent calendar. Is there any objection to adding House Bill 6870 to our consent calendar? Seeing none, House Bill 6870 has been added to our consent calendar. And with that, I have no more items on today's agenda that I will be calling. And so, Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind preparing the vote on our consent calendar, it will be the last vote of the day. And as referenced earlier, we will hold the votes open until 3 p.m.
Consent calendar includes Senate Bill 1151, Senate Bill 1152, Senate Bill 1158, Senate Bill 1185, Senate Bill 1189, House Bill 6825, House Bill 6828, House Bill 6870. Flexer,
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Blumenthal,
Blumenthal votes yes.
Slap,
Senator Slav votes yes.
Moran Bello,
Moran Bello votes yes.
Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Master Francesco,
Master Francesco votes yes.
Burger Giovanni,
Burger Givallo votes yes.
Bronco,
Bronco votes yes.
Carpino,
Representative Carpino votes yes.
Haddad,
Representative Haddad votes yes.
Hoxa,
Hoxa votes yes.
Kana,
Kana votes yes.
Labriola, Marks,
Senator Marks votes yes.
McCarthy Vehi,
Representative McCarthy Vahey votes yes.
McCrory, Parker, Rosario,
Rosario votes yes.
Santiago,
Santiago votes yes.
all set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, the committee will stand in recess until 3 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Representative Carpino. You ready?
I am, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay, 862.
Yes.
Oh, 1154.
Yes.
1187.
No.
6822.
6822?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly.
And then I said yes, so okay, but you're also yes on that. Okay. 64.
Yes.
And you were here for the rest. Thank you, Representative. You're all set.
Have a great afternoon.
You too, thanks. Representative Rosario, you missed a couple of votes. If you're ready to vote. Representative Rosario, if you are present, you missed a couple of votes. Please raise your hand whenever you are ready to vote.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Let me just go through these so I can find what you missed.
Sure.
1187.
Yes, I vote yes.
6822.
I vote yes.
1187. That was it. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, Representative.
Hey, Valentina, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Okay, do you have access to an agenda?
Yes, yeah, I got to look at it.
Perfect. Congratulations, as well.
Thank you. We're just
Um,
hanging out over here.
Oh my goodness. Wow, look at this. You do that. Well, okay, I don't want to wake him up. So, so the luckily we did quite a few consent calendars, so I'll
Great.
just say those bill names quickly. 1151, 1152, 1158, 1185, 1189, 6825, 6828, 6870 were all on consent calendar.
I'm going to vote yes to the consent calendar.
Great. Senate Bill 862.
Yes.
He's voting too. Senate Bill 1154.
Yes.
Senate Bill 1187.
Yes.
House Bill 6822.
Yes.
House Bill 6864.
Yes.
House Bill 6866.
Yes.
Okay, you are all set. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.